Good afternoon, dental internet world. My name is Dr. Vishal Sharma, and I'm once again in the offices of my friend and colleague, Dr. Mike Parchewski. Mike, we have a very special guest today. I suppose all of them are very special guests, or it wouldn't be very hospitable of us. I'm going to let you introduce him.
Yeah, extremely special guest here. Rare appearance in public these days. But yeah, it's great to have you, Anthony. So this is Anthony Dinuzio. He's with Dentsply Sirona, and he's going to tell us a bit more about his new role with Dentsply Sirona. But he's the guy that for us on anything technology, when we don't have the answers, he's the guy we look to for the answers. So today we're going to talk a lot about technology with Dentsply Sirona, and Anthony's going to bring us up to date on what's coming out, and he's going to bring us up to date on some tips and tricks that I think will help everybody. So Anthony, maybe start with what's your new role you've got with Dentsply Sirona?
Yeah, well, I do appreciate you guys inviting me. I'm really honored to be here. When you were saying a rare sighting, I didn't want everybody to think I never came to visit you guys. So, but yeah, so the new role, working as the sales manager for Canada here. So I have the honor of leading the team in the charge to continue to grow Cerec this year. So pretty excited about that. Yeah, we'll be working a lot closer together, obviously, with a lot of the education stuff that you do with Dentsply Sirona. So pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. You've got a fantastic team across Canada to work with. Mike and I have a lot of experience working more so with the Western Canadian reps. So congratulations on that role. Well deserved. Tell us a bit about your background before joining Dentsply Sirona.
Yeah, so I've been in dental since 2008. So I started out in the U.S. Selling goop and glue, and then kind of moved to Canada here. Cut my teeth in some more goop and glue, and then ended up at Dentsply Sirona. So not a very glamorous path, but I'm loving it at Dentsply Sirona. When I first got into dental, I learned about Cerec, and so it was kind of my dream to one day have the opportunity to work with Cerec. So here I am, and living the dream. Loving it.
Bit of an ironic career path, given that the new technology is really going to be the extinction of goop and glue, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I had to start out there to understand that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
So East Coast U.S.
Yes.
So when was the last time you were there, and do you miss it?
Last time I was there was 2019. Yeah, so I got to go. Our son was 1.5 then, so we got to go down and visit some family there. So, I miss it. I mean, I love Calgary, with the exception of days like today when it's minus 27. I don't think most enjoy that, but I definitely miss Philadelphia. Yeah, it was a good time.
That's a long stretch of not being able to be back home, and obviously with the delays in the vaccine, it might be a little while. I picked up on a few A's, and
did you really?
Maybe in a boot when Anthony was talking there, so you got to get back to the East Coast so you don't talk like that that twang that Mike has. So Dentsply Sirona had their annual sales meeting last week,
yep.
And obviously that was done virtually. I think you guys were in Cancun last year for it.
We were in Cancun.
Yeah, I was in Berlin for the Primemill unveiling actually at the same time, just over a year ago. So any sneak peeks as to what the new big piece of tech coming out of your world will be?
No, I can't really share a whole lot. I would just say stay tuned. There's in true Dentsply Sirona fashion, we've got something that is going to make your life easier, and obviously it's going to be a pretty big piece of technology. So I would say just stay tuned for something later on this year.
Always teasing us, hey Mike?
Yeah.
Always teasing.
Well, we had to ask.
You know how it is. Like, I'll find out when you guys find out. That's usually how it works.
Yeah. Well, I would think that there would make an important thing for this kind of information to be launched on the podcast, but we'll have to work on them a little bit more.
Well, maybe we'll have to schedule a second visit. How's that?
So, both Vish and I are big proponents of the Primescan and how much it's been involved in our clinic, and coming from the OmniCam and Blue Cam and Red Cam users, the Primescan really has been separating it from the previous scanners, and also has really become a big part of the way we're doing dentistry. So when you have a dentist that's inquiring about Primescan, what are, like, new to the whole digital technology, what are some of the big questions that they're asking?
Well, I mean, the biggest one I would say is just how do I work this into the clinic? How do I start incorporating this into my daily workflow? What does that look like? I mean, cost is always a conversation point that comes up. It's not the most important one, but it is a piece that we talk about. But really, the conversation always leads back to what does this look like in my day to day, and how easy it is to use for the rest of my team to pick up and start using it. Because we all know, I mean, we've all seen scanners that just get, they're not easy to use, so they just get pushed into the corner and become a glorified coat hanger. Yeah. And so, most of the time the conversation ends with like, how easy is this thing going to be to use? So
yeah, and certainly, having trained a number of dentists on OmniCam, and then of course gravitating towards Primescan, the integration aspect is just so much easier. There's no doubt from that perspective. So, Mike, obviously the crown and bridge component is probably one major aspect, and Anthony, I'm sure that's the most common question that you guys get asked. But Mike, talk a little bit about what else you're doing with Primescan right now. We were talking just before we hit record on some of the other avenues that you're using it for, and that might answer some of those questions for some of the clients that Anthony's been dealing with lately.
Yeah, well, thanks. I agree that it is, realistically, when it went from, if we go back historically, when it went from the red cam and the blue cam and the OmniCam, really they were crown machines, right? Truly, that's what you were doing, is one visit dentistry, doing, either a couple crowns, quadrant. As it moved up through the technology, you could fit more, like you could do all four. With an OmniCam, you could do a whole quadrant. Now with the Primescan, it's opened a lot other avenues for us in the clinic with how fast we can do a scan and arch. So when we're able to do a digital impression in 2 to 3 minutes, upper and lower, and a bite, it's now something that we can use in a logical step in a lot of our treatments. And a lot of that has been new patient exams. So it's taking our new patient exams to another level. So we're actually doing like a digital model. With those digital models, as opposed to like models that you take, impressions in a box, Vish and I, we both have, an occlusion background, but it's nice. You get the occlusion on the Primescan is so accurate. When you pull those models apart and look at where the patient's biting, you really get to see the wear patterns. You really get to see the high spots, and it opens up a whole bunch of questions to ask the patient and a whole bunch of information about the patient that you otherwise wouldn't have seen before. And the accuracy is so good that, people who have the tech scan and some of these other devices, I think that kind of incorporates it in. And the other thing that we're doing a lot on is with the Orthos 2.0 software, where the Ortho 2.0 software will actually give us all the interarch distances, the overbite, overjet. And so we'll get all of the basic, details that we're doing in a new patient exam from that. And then it'll also do a rendering of an aligner therapy right from that ortho software. So I find that, you get a patient with a bit of relapse or a bit of minor crowding, and all of a sudden you can show them with a click of the button what it would look like if those teeth were straight. It does open up a whole nother conversation with the idea of like doing SureSmile or something. How about you, Vish? Anything to add on that?
Well, I think that's a pretty good summary, Anthony, as we were talking about before we hit record. Really when we're doing integration training for Primescan, a 2-day training course, I've got one coming up in Toronto next month. The bulk of it is crown and bridge design. Sure. We touch base on implants. We touch base on SureSmile. If there is time, we're going to go into OraCheck as a diagnostic tool. And so there's a lot of applications, but I don't think we emphasize it enough. And for me, we use the Primescan for every new patient exam. And we do something in our office is called a diagnostic reevaluation. So it's basically a new patient exam on existing patients every 3 to 5 years. And having the ability to articulate the models on the touchscreen, looking at the occlusogram. You talk about a tech scan. So we have T-scan technology. We rarely use it anymore with the Primescan. It's just so accurate from that perspective. So case presentation, showing recession, being able to track that, like as a diagnostic tool, I think it's really underutilized and maybe even under-advertised.
Yep.
And so, in the course that I'm going to be taking or giving, next month, and as opposed to like just plopping that at the very end when all the participants have had enough of listening to me for 2 days and their attention span is all diminished, I'm going to plug it in at the end of day number 1. So I would agree with you on that. I think it's going to be exciting. And Anthony, you were talking a little bit about maybe a push on SureSmile technology. Maybe it'll be paired with some technology that Dentsply Sirona will have coming out in the future. Can you talk a little bit about the SureSmile aspect and what DS has planned for that? I know it's not specifically your role, but it's a really exciting part of the company.
Yeah, I mean, we have this year we have a huge initiative on digital impression and SureSmile. I mean, the digital impression component, you guys both hit on a lot of the key benefits of that. I mean, we live in a digital age where, patients are used to seeing things in 3 dimension. We all carry iPhones around. We have cars that drive themselves. And that it really, for them to be able to see their mouth in three dimensions on that Primescan screen, just engages them in the treatment process, right? So that's kind of the foundation. That's where it all starts. And then from there, we have all these different workflows that we can use that digital impression for. And one of them is orthodontics. So, back in 2019, we started with SureSmile, although SureSmile is not a new product. Metrics has been around for, I think it's 15 or 20 years. So, but SureSmile is an up and coming product that we see a lot of success with this year, because you have the ability to have more predictable treatment, faster treatment options with it, very flexible. Like both of you guys have 3D printers, so you have the ability to do some of that production in-house if you want with a DIY model. So it really is an underutilized resource within Dentsply Sirona, and we're going to have a huge push this year on SureSmile and hopefully educate more dentists on the advantage of that compared to some of the other mainstream clear aligners out there.
Yeah, that's exciting. Should be an exciting year. So speaking of a year, it's hard to believe that just over a year ago, almost a year ago to the day, the Primemill was unveiled in Berlin. And I know that one thing that's near and dear to Mike is surgical guide milling capability. And the Primemill, the reviews initially right now from the States are exceptional fit, much more streamlined cleaning process, which would be great. What other capabilities are exciting you about Primemill, Anthony, that will shortly be coming out?
Well, so we've had, what has been very, very well adopted with Primemill is the zirconia.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Like if you guys have seen that. But coming out this year, we have the titanium milling ability, which is going to be huge, talking about implants, being able to mill custom titanium abutments in-house to go along with the surgical guides that you're milling. I think that's going to be a huge push. Hopefully we'll see the super fast milling of ceramics this year. That we all know the mill is capable of doing it, so just flushing out some of the details and the approval processes around that. So hopefully we'll be seeing that this year too. But the titanium one, we're definitely looking forward to seeing how that's going to work out.
Now with the titanium, is that I know a lot of people are be interested in this. Would it also do the custom healing abutments?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. I would assume we'd be able to do that. I mean, we do that a bit with zirconia now. We can do that, but I guess time will tell. The limitation for the custom healing cap would just be the size of the titanium blanks. The titanium blanks that we have today would probably limit that, but we'll see what Sirona has up their sleeve.
Yeah, because I know there's a few of us that have been chatting about trying to work around because inherently with immediate implant placement, having that, typically you'll customize your own healing abutment by using integrity or acrylic.
Sure.
Smooth it, trim it, remove it. If we could take an extraction site prior to and scan it, and to be able to, even image right after you take the tooth out and then make a, so I think a lot of us have been playing around with ways in the split file to try to do that. So I think that'll be a cool thing. And, right now that's the best way to do that is with the Zento, right? Because the Zento will offer you that. And so whenever we're doing an immediate anterior, just for the sake of simplicity and completion, to get that custom abutment to hold the papilla, all my front teeth are being done with the Zento.
Okay.
I just actually wouldn't do it any other way. But now as this starts to develop, I'm seeing, we'd have the ability to also do it with a custom healing abutment. And, where we have the ability to do a custom abutment in-house too, that helps that workflow as well, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's has some exciting applications, and I know that super fast mill Emax is possible because I've actually seen it happen. So hopefully sooner than later. Anthony, to say that the last few years with Cerec World, the changes in the Cerec World have been monumental would definitely be an understatement. Obviously, there was Primescan a couple years ago, Primemill just over a year ago. That has changed the way that Mike and I practice. I think significantly would be the best way to describe it. But how has that changed your approach when you're talking to prospective dentists who are looking at this technology? Like, obviously, you mentioned, how do I integrate it into my practice is the most common question. Of course, finances and a variety of other things are applicable. But with all the new applications, how does that change the conversation topics that you have?
Well, it makes, from my perspective, it makes Cerec more approachable to more dentists. Because what we've seen with Primescan and the integration now with Primemill in 2020 is just the ease of use factor. Adopting it to the clinic is so much easier because the scanning protocols are extremely simple. You guys have seen, like, designing a crown, 95% of it is done by the software. Mm-hmm. There's very little work there. And now with the Primemill, the learning curve is significantly reduced. The mill is extremely smart. It does all of the burr management for you, all of the block management, does all that kind of stuff for you already. So I would say it just makes Cerec a lot more approachable to the masses. And that's what we're seeing is more and more dentists are now looking at it because they can see that the technology is there. In their words, I don't have to become a lab technician. Yeah. Right? The software and the milling machine is doing a majority of the work for me, and then the rest of my team can pick up very, very easily. So
yeah, I've noticed there's been a big push on more and more the dentists that are getting their team involved in the design and the mill, and definitely with scanning the blocks and using the Primemill has it makes everything so seamless.
Right.
Now, another thing that I find is helpful is the internet and YouTube and being able to see these videos and that. So on your Instagram, you have the CADCAM hacks.
Yep, that's what it's called.
So CADCAM hacks, check it out. Now,
thanks for the shameless plug.
Yeah, talk about some of the key tips and tricks that you're posting on that.
The inspiration around a lot of that is just in regard to common questions that myself and our team get on a daily basis. So that's where a lot of that comes from. Simple things like how, like you mentioned it earlier before we started recording, but how to take a scan from one software to the other, what type of file format we use for that, or how to use the new disposable tip for the Primescan. Or how to take, I know you do a lot of sleep appliances and sleep apnea work. So, how to take a second buccal bite for that sleep appliance. Things of that nature. These are common questions our team sees all the time. And so that's really where their inspiration is. And when I started it, I just saw a need for free access to simple things that make life easier with Cerec. And so I just decided to start building it out. So it's a work in progress, So if you guys got some ideas, you've got some requests, let me know. We'll try to make a video, but that's where it comes from.
Well, and I do think it's important because there's a lot of the cases where, a file format or something that you need to shift. I know when the move to CAD implant was done from Galaxis, going from what was typically an SSI file movement to an SIXD, confused a lot of people because all of a sudden they couldn't do, and I think we called you a couple times. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good that, it's important when there are questions that come up. I like that you post that and the solutions so that people can just go through those and say, okay, somebody's likely asked this question before and I can go to that, go to the Instagram and find that pretty quick.
Yeah, we linked it over to, there's the CADCAM Hacks YouTube channel as well. So things like scanning with an OmniCam and sending the SureSmile, or scanning with the Primescan, sending the SureSmile, or, things like what scan post or scan body do I use for certain applications. Mm-hmm. There's videos like that on there, which, I think they've been used many, many times just for, simple education, because as we know, when you're scanning with Cerec, there's so many different components and different workflows you could do.
Yeah, it takes a while to get really dialed into your particular system that you're using. So good for you on that initiative. Mike, next time you have a troubleshooting problem, just take a selfie and post it onto CADCAM Hacks. And Anthony will be answering in real time. Will be the next aspect of that. Well, actually, with your new promotion, you probably have underlings that you can delegate that to. So that's my role for Mike, by the way, Anthony, an underling that gets task delegated. So, one of the I guess minor challenges that Mike and I would call it over COVID has been around dental education and CE. So virtual meetings have filled that void effectively, I guess, Mike, but just really there's limitations, obvious limitations with that. So with your new role supporting your team across Canada, where do you see dental CE progressing in the next year or two, especially given the fact that in Canada our vaccine rollout is a little bit behind some of our other contemporary countries?
So I would say when it comes to Dentsply Sirona CE, we have just completed our academy in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, despite some of these delays, we'll be able to travel at least in country, and we can all have a nice meetup over there in Toronto at the new academy. But we always have to have a backup plan because in person, like you said, may not happen yet this year. So we have continued to build out what we started over the whole COVID lockdown early last year in building out the virtual CE experience. So we continue to add more and more education on that front, and we continue to get better and better at it. I would say, like, within dental, we didn't do a very good job of virtual trainings or virtual CE up until last year. And I'd say over the last year, we've really progressed and refined it. And I mean, even with Wally, we're doing a lot of the Thrive programs where you can actually, design your own Cerec crown virtually, remotely. Things of that nature are just, exciting. And I think you'll just see more of that to come this year.
Well, some of those setups that you guys had initially, kudos to you and your entire team. I know Amberly was involved in that, and obviously Cindy Herrera from Toronto. So that was a fantastic initiative for sure. I'm not sure how I would feel about providing dental CE out of my kitchen or living room, Mike, but kudos to Wally for volunteering that. Yeah, obviously Dentsply Sirona has done a really good job with that, and we're certainly excited to see the facility whenever we get a chance to get out there.
On that note, first of all, just to plug shamelessly, to see Wally live on the podcast number 10, and everything you need to know about zirconia from the Zirconia Wizard. Yeah, that guy is unbelievable when it comes to zirconia. I still go back to it when I'm cementing, going, okay, what did he say again? So if you need to know any tips and tricks about using zirconia or cementation, podcast 10 with Dr. Desi, the legend. And on that note, one other thing I wanted to ask is with the new facility, can you tell us what's going to be there? Like, what's the size of the training facility? The number of people that can accommodate, how big the rooms are. What do we know so far?
Yeah, I don't want to give numbers because I probably got them wrong and I probably underestimating. But it is a massive facility. Have you both been to Charlotte?
Yeah, we've been to the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah. So very similar to what we have in the U.S. as far as size capacity goes. I mean, we have tons of space for in-person, hands-on, learning experiences. I believe we have 3 or 4 treatment centers there. We have an entire sim lab. We have an entire in-lab setup there. We've got, I can't even count the number of Cerecs that we have there. Yeah. So I think we can accommodate 20 to 30, don't quote me on that, 20 to 30 in-person hands-on Cerec attendees. So
which is pretty great. Yeah. I saw the pictures of all the boxes in the warehouse there. Oh yeah. And it looked like Christmas on steroids. It was pretty excited. I got excited. Maybe other people wouldn't find that boxes of Sirona products exciting, but I am the dental geek.
On social media, actually, last week, Cindy was posting some aspects on the install.
Oh yeah,
and it was impressive for sure.
She was pumped. That's her little baby there. Yeah, she's been working on that and trying to figure out exactly how much we need for the education coming up in the next year or two. So yeah, that was kind of her baby. She was happy to see that come to fruition.
I'm sure there'll be a dental education renaissance once travel is opened up and people will be really keen on attending conferences and events. I know you and I certainly are, and Anthony, I'm sure you're itching to get out there as well.
Maybe we can have an Oktoberfest in Toronto at the new academy.
That's right. Yeah, I better get back to the gym because I don't think my dear lederhosen's quite gonna fit. If you bought the goat lederhosen, Mike, it stretches a little bit more. So, and
if you go to the Instagram @Smile Architect, there are pictures of Dr. Vishal in those Oktoberfest photos. You just have to go back a few October pictures. Please check those out and comment several times, please.
Well, speaking of my lack of health and fitness over COVID, Anthony, obviously it's been a big personal initiative for you, and you've had some really admirable undertakings with that. So tell us about that. Where did the idea and motivation for some of your workout initiatives come from. We, of course, follow a few of the same podcasts, including Digital Workflow Dentist, by the way. But where did that come from? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I you may follow Andy Frisella. Yeah. He's a guy I follow religiously on social media, but he has a program called 75 Hard, which if you're not familiar with it, it's 75 days of no alcohol. You got to file a meal plan. You've got to drink a gallon of water a day, and you got to have 2 45-minute workouts a day, including one being outside. In minus 27, that would be I would say dangerous, but so I think after the first lockdown last year, a lot of us were feeling the COVID fatigue, and I kind of made a resolve to myself that I wanted to come out of this stronger, both physically, mentally, the whole bit. And so I had been thinking about doing it for like a year or two, and I had every excuse in the book not to do it. But I got to the point where I was like, well, time to stop making excuses and just commit to it. So thankfully my wife was kind of in the same position. So she joined along, and I had another buddy that joined along.
Good
and
for
so
you guys.
We had a bit of a group doing it, but it was transformational. Definitely was, like, mentally a huge transformation. Physically, it was good as well. But I've been thinking about starting it back up. I'm just going to wait for it to warm up a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I saw it, and I got to day 5 myself. I tried. I'm like, okay, I'm giving it a go.
Yeah.
January 5th, I got to January 10th.
What was the hardest part?
You know what it was? It's just all of a sudden, I had I think I was doing lecturing on the one day, and then I was just like exhausted, full day of speaking with, 10 computers stacked in here. Yeah. And then I got home, and I'm like, I got to do 2 workouts and 1 outdoors. And it just, kind of fell apart there.
I would say that's, to me, the outdoor workout was the hardest one to fit in. Like the rest of it was hard, but I thought it was going to be harder. But the second workout, it's so easy to not get that one in.
Well, good for you. And that obviously not only a testament to your mental strength, but the real aspect is that Mike is an ultra marathon runner, but a day of talking about CBCT will exhaust him more than an ultra marathon. So that just tells you how hard all this is. Obviously, a lot of your plans for the remainder of 2021 are going to entail your new role. What are your plans for the new role? What are your plans personally? What's going to occupy your time for the rest of the year?
Well, yeah, the new role is a big component of that. We've got some exciting things in the works that you'll see roll out later on this year. That'll be part of that. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do personally for the rest of the year, especially if we can't travel. So that's a bit of an unknown, but I'm sure we'll get up to something crazy. I finished a basement renovation right there before Christmas. So that was kind of the last box to check of home projects. So I think I need to pick up a hobby, maybe crocheting or something. I don't know.
Well, Mike's always
75 days of crocheting.
Yeah.
Mike's always looking for a 75-kilometer running partner, and that's definitely not going to be me. So
I think I'm going to pass on that one too.
Yeah, I think that's wise. Anthony, a pleasure having you. Always good talking to you. Congratulations on the new role, and we're very excited for the unveiling of whatever this piece of teasing technology is that you are mum about and not telling us anything about. So excited to see that. Mike, I'll leave it to you to wrap it up.
Thank you very much again, Anthony, for being here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. To check us out, go to @Digital Dentistry on Instagram, follow us, and there'll be links to the podcast. We're Digital Dentist on YouTube. Best way to find us is searching Digital Workflow Dentistry on YouTube. And there's lots of podcasts. We're up to 12 now. Thanks to all of our subscribers, and everybody be well and take care.
Thanks, everyone.